Welcome. What we're learning in this segment is all about customer segmentation. How do we look at them? How do we find them? How do we begin to think about how we can reach these customers? Please go to the discussion board to start our conversations about customers. Just as there's more than one way to look at a person, there's more than one way to look at a customer. How do these women define themselves? They're executives, they're moms, they're wives, they're friends, they're volunteers, leaders, gardeners, upper middle class, etc. We describe one another with what we do, what our social ties are, our health status, our outlooks, our income status, educational levels, all different ways. How do you define yourself? We want to make sure that we want to look at our customers in the most pertinent ways for our businesses. Customer segmentation is all about the different ways to look at customers. Let's look at some examples. We can look at an example of, for example, Bowling Green, the consumer versus commercial market. We can also look at it by vertical market. For example, we could look that there's a healthcare market, an education market, food service, gardening, etc. We can then look by channel. Are we in retail or direct, which means online in some cases, or do we have very specific distribution systems to reach different types of customers? Another way to look at customers is by features. Customers who shop for price or service or some other important key differentiator. We can also look for customers by mindset, which is a psychographic way. For example, in the car market, buyers are famous for buying cars that project the type of images they want or have about themselves. Sexy, practical, safe, hardworking, etc. We can also target our market by looking at demographics, by race and age and income. Political parties are great at doing this. They slice and dice their voter demographics, saying, okay, this segment of rural, white, low-income voters turned out in spades for this type of candidate. Finally, we can also look at customers by seasons and phases of life. Are you in a new baby phase, a retirement phase, a saving for college, for your children phase? All enable or create surges in different types of purchasing and savings. Customer segmentation is a very interesting way of getting further at who our true target market is. Let's go back to Bowling Green. In Bowling Green, they saw that in their landscaping business, they had folks come in who were both consumer and commercial. They didn't have people come in by vertical market, for example, education or healthcare. Although those are a way to segment your market, it doesn't make much sense for Bowling Green. But you could see how a company can look at the way people purchase them in verticals. They also looked at their customers by channel. Currently, folks come in the store to buy plants. They could see a situation where they might eventually want to go online. They also see that some of their customers shop by features. They might look at plant variety or price or plant health. We all know people who are very fixated on one feature. Price seems to come up. People only want to pay a low price in some segments for the product or service. Bowling Green also could look at its customers by mindset. And what they found by looking at the customers by mindset is they really had just beginning and learning gardeners. They could also look at their customer target by demographics. And for example, for Bowling Greens, they found out their main demographic were homeowners with an income level of around $60,000 a year. The last example is by phase of life. And there, Bowling Green found that all of their gardeners were in different phases of life. Sometimes it was their first home purchase, and gardeners just continued to garden all through retirement. When Rolling Greens looked at all of these segments, they actually thought that the most useful for them was to look by mindset, and that was at beginning learning gardeners. Because once they could understand what their target market's pain points were, they could then develop a marketing plan about them. For example, if you were a learning gardener, the thing that you are most worried about is, where do I plant this plant, and how do I make sure it doesn't die on me, 2 weeks after I put it in? Beginning and learning gardeners also have a lot of how-to questions, like how do I plant it? How deep do I need to dig that hole? What type of bugs do I need to worry about? And by understanding the mindset of my gardeners, I can now develop a brand and develop products and services that will help my target market be successful. To take our customer knowledge into our growth plan, we must make sure that we first understand who our customers are, and second, how these are the right customers to help us grow. Customer segmentation and value for growth. Segmentation for growth means is that the category must be actionable. The target customers that we've identified, we must be able to do something with. We also make sure that they are measurable and worthwhile. And finally, we also need to make sure that they are accessible, that these target markets are people that we can actually reach. In order to complete your marketing growth plan, we need to understand who our key critical customer segments are and provide some details. This is an example of rolling greens. If you notice, we don't necessarily have numbers in this detailed segmentation. It's just an understanding of who's an attractive target. For example, for Rolling Green, when they segmented their market, they found out that they had 3 different types of people who mainly come to their location. They have residential gardeners, they have some commercial landscapers, and then they also have gifters. Now, Rolling Green decided that their main target market and what they wanted to grow was really their residential gardeners. And will focus on activities to try to get more of these people to come into the store and buy more often. Now, they had identified that they had a small segment, which was gifters, just people who come in and they're not gardeners, but they would grab a plant off the shelf for a gift. And although this is an interesting segment and it's nice for them to make some money, selling plants to these gifters, this isn't a segment that they're actually going to pursue. It's just something that there's not a lot of information about who's a gifter, and it's not worth their time when they feel that the real profitable segments are residential and then potentially expanding more into commercial. Okay, now it's your turn. In using the Rolling Green as an example, when you look at their critical customer segmentation details, you're going to do the same thing for your target market with your new growth opportunity. If you go to your growth plan, you should find a table that looks very similar to the Rolling Green table that's on the slide before. We'd like you to fill this out. Now, for some of you, you may not have the exact dollar amounts, but you should know whether or not the profitability on these customers is high or medium or low. For example, when we looked at Rolling Greens, they had different profitabilities on selling to customers versus commercial. For example, when they sell to customers, they really don't have, for residential customers, they really don't know exactly where these customers are. These customers use lots of places to get their information. So they have to advertise in value packs, and they have to advertise in newspapers, and they have to do radio advertisements, and maybe they do flyers in their local grocery store. So the cost of advertising is actually pretty high because their consumers are in lots of different areas. You can compare that with Rolling Greens when they try to target to the commercial landscapers. That's very targeted, and they know what sources the commercial landscapers would look at which are more trade journals. A lot of that is word of mouth, or attending trade shows. So you can do the same thing with your customer segments. Think about, well, gosh, if I have to go very wide with my messaging and use lots of different forms of advertising, that might be a little more expensive, which might lower my profitability margin. So you'll have to go after volume. Once you complete this table in your growth plan, come back to this presentation. In this section, we learned how analyzing your customers' roles can help us better to market them. I hope this has given you some new insights into how to go after your target customers.
Hello, I'm Victoria Sassine with Babson. This week, we're going to continue our work with our market planning with a look at market sizing. How big is our market? How can we get data to assess its size and growth? Then we moved to customers, and we looked at a different way to segment them than we have before. And finally, we looked at customer differentiation again and really assessed what makes us different from our competition. Now, all of this analysis and hard work is going to go into your growth plan and strengthen our opportunity plan of attack. Let's bring all of these learnings to our last face-to-face, where we'll continue to evolve and strengthen our new opportunity to help us scale and grow. We'll see you soon. We can't wait.